Lieutenant Adira Nix floated in the drop cradle, boots magnet clamped to the rail, helmet waiting at her hip. Beyond the polyceramic viewport, the universe looked cracked, shards of turquoise light flickering where ordinary space had splintered. Here, at the periapsis of the newborn Quasar Vela 1219, physics unspooled like a faulty ribbon. Matter funneled toward the fresh singularity, and time itself frayed into indigo strands. Every officer aboard the strike carrier, Lorenzian Dream, felt the wrongness. Holograms jittered, drifting a few heartbeats out of sync with their emitters. Voices carried an echo that wasn't an echo at all, but a reminder that causality was thinly stitched. Slipstream travel always toyed with continuity, but operating inside a still-forming quasar made the sensation visceral, predatory. It wanted to bite. Adira checked the status tree traced across her retinas. 9 companies, 1,008 personnel, ready to punch a hole through an empire. The war with the sovereign swarm was 2 centuries old, older than she was, older than everyone alive aside from the cryo-frozen strategists who'd launched that first desperate volley. Humanity had held barely, but holding wouldn't be enough forever. The swarm only needed time to rebuild its fractal hives and regurgitate fresh fleets. So Command gambled. Take the fight to a place no species was meant to survive. Bridge audio pulsed through her earbud. All strike craft, final synchronization in 2 minutes. Repeat, 2 minutes to cascade. The cascade was the trick. Instead of mouthing around a 3-dimensional dogfight in a relativistic storm, the Dream's task force would shear the ruler of the swarm, the royal core called the Imago Mantle, out of phase for 13 seconds. 13 seconds in which one boarding platoon could slip inside, sabotage the Nexus lattice, and render the swarm headless. 13 seconds to excise 2 centuries of terror. Adira had volunteered the instant rumors touched the barracks mesh. She told herself it was duty, but she knew simpler motives. Rage at the bioships that had devoured her home station, guilt for surviving, a hunger for an ending. Any ending, victory or extinction, so long as the waiting stopped. Sergeant Orso nudged her shin. His beard was a dark slash under the visor of his half-locked helmet. "You thinking or hallucinating, LT? I hear there's no difference out here," she said, offering a grin. "If the floor turns into your childhood bedroom again, try to scream before it eats me." "Copy that." The cradle door's iris peeled open. A corridor striped with hazard chevrons led into the drop bay, where the boarding torpedo lounged like a chrome harpoon. 20 meters long, skeletal, war-painted with ablative scorch patterns, it looked insufficient for the scale of what waited outside. Yet engineers insisted it would pierce the Imago Mantle's carapace the way a sewing needle pierced cloth. No shockwave, just an insertion of foreign matter that the swarm's immune response would sense too late. Adira climbed the ladder into the torpedo's gut. Seats arranged in a spiral accommodated 40 Marines. They clipped harness webs, checked seals, palmed each other's shoulders. In theory, the torpedo's inertial dampers would negate forces. In practice, inside a berthing quasar, theory begged forgiveness. A luminescent countdown rose on the bulkhead. Rego row 147. She closed her visor and the suit's sensorium came alive. Thermal ghosts, EM smear, friendly pings, her own heartbeat displayed as a red coil. She exhaled to flatten spikes in her vitals. Across the interlinks, she tasted the platoon's collective trepidation, micro tremors in transmitted muscular data, nanosecond stammers in subvocal responses. "All squads," she said, "remember the sequence. Null rounds first, breach charges second, cursed prayers last." A ripple of chuckles, grateful for pattern and ritual. Orso added, "If you can't remember a cursed prayer, any profanity will do. The void isn't picky." The countdown marched. Outside, the cascade ignited. Slipstream drives were never silent. They screamed at a frequency you didn't hear with ears, but with bone. The Dream's dorsal line spat stitched bolts of white-black energy, each bolt a pocket micro-universe that expanded and died in an eye blink. These ruptures folded the vacuum between the carrier and the swarm vanguard until distance lost meaning. Sensors showed starfield turning inside out, quasi-particles unfurling like petals. Swarm cruisers, tumbling through impossible angles as every law they relied upon, betrayed them. For a heartbeat, the human fleet and the swarm armada shared no common frame of reference. Vectors, inertias, even definitions of before and after scrambled. A three-dimensional dogfight became quantum confetti. Then the cascade snapped shut around the imago mantle. To Adira, the moment felt like biting down on foil. Her teeth ached, skin twitched. The torpedo fired out of its rack, catapulted by rails boosted with vacuum energy. Acceleration flattened her to the seat until her armor's hydraulic padding oozed to compensate. Thrusters pivoted, steering along a trajectory only computers could parse. Between fragments of warping spacetime, through corridors where time ran slower by 2%, across boiling loops of gravity that could rip a body into spaghetti if touched. The imago mantle grew in her hood, a sphere 50 kilometers wide. Armored and living chitin overlapped like tectonic plates. It glowed from within, light pulsing through vein-like conduits. Around it, swarm escorts flailed. Without coordinate data, they collided, folded, crumpled under stray gravitational tides. Fire blazed, but sound didn't exist here. Everything was silent, funeral silent. Point defense spool, or so called. The torpedo's skin sprouted micro-drones that spread into a whirling halo, intercepting acid darts and plasma filaments vomited from the mantle's pores. Explosions flashed bright, then smeared away, stretched by relativistic aberration. One dart clipped a drone, no boom, only a sudden absence. Software scalpeled out of the world. Adira's suit announced impact in 3, 2, 1. A clang thundered through her bones. She tasted iron. The torpedo speared through the mantle's outer shell, leaving a cauterized tunnel behind. When it halted, inertia made her limbs surge against straps. She saw stars even though her eyes were open. Green lights rippled along the ejection rail. Harness buckles snapped. The nose iris dilated to reveal a corridor of pulsating flesh, mauve and weeping translucent fluid. Already the swarm's immune drones swarmed, insectile things with diamond mandibles and wings of electromagnetic shimmer. "Null rounds," Adira barked. Marines vaulted from the torpedo in practiced arcs, rifles coughing globes of coherent vacuum. Each null round erased a meter of swarm drone from existence. No gore, no debris, just subtraction. In seconds, the corridor cleared. They advanced. Boots sloshed in enzyme puddles. Walls spasmed, trying to close the wound. Sergeant Orso set charges that froze the tissue, buying them minutes. Guidance beacons blinked on her map overlay. Their objective lay 400 meters ahead and 70 down. The cerebral lattice, the decision organ melding every swarm mind into a single will. Destroy that, and the layers above would tear themselves apart in conflicting orders. Humanity's outer fleets could mop up the orphans. Hallways forked like spinal canals. The Marines followed pheromone detector compasses, each crossroad stink-coated by the swarm's neural chemistry. Twice they passed vats birthing more drones, gelatinous sacs splitting to spill larval blades. Null rounds tidied the problem. Inside her helmet, Adira heard whispered clicks, not in comms but in her skull. The lattice feeling them. An intelligence older than Earth rising to confront the infection. "Picking up high-energy surge," said Specialist Varga. "Local topology shifting." The world lurched. Gravity inverted. Ceiling became floor. Armor gyros saved them from neck snaps. But Varga wasn't quick enough. She slammed into a spur of bone and screamed, femur splintering. Orso dragged her upright, injected analgesics, clipped her to his harness. "We're down a comms tech," he growled. "Priority is still the lattice," Adira replied, hating the calm in her own voice. The ceiling floor bubbled, extruding pillars that grew into scythe-armed titans 5 meters tall. Chitin refracted quasar light, seeping through cracks in the hull. Their mouths were circular saws. "Switch to overburners." The platoon's rifles whined as they vented coolant. Next bursts punched luminous holes clean through the Titan line. One Titan survived half torsoless, flopping yet still dangerous. Private Solano dashed forward, jamming a plasma bayonet between segmented plates. Fired. The Titan gurgled molten amber. Solano didn't see the ancillary limb until it perforated his abdomen. He died silently. Suits dampened screams. No one paused. They leapt the corpse, maintaining cadence. Static pulsed in Adira's audio. A voice, no, a chorus, slithered through encryption. Tiny things, starborn disease, you carry extinction in your lungs. I remember the taste of your sons. The lattice was speaking, or maybe hallucination. She forced focus. Checkpoint Alpha, breach. They cut through a diaphragmatic membrane using microsingularity grenades that collapsed tissue into centimeter black beads before evaporating. Air here smelled metallic, tang of lightning. Beyond, the cerebral lattice chamber gaped, a cathedral of optic fibers, amber stalactites dripping data, neural whirlpools spinning light. At its center floated a sphere of translucent amber, 30 meters wide, threads connecting it to every wall. Patterns rippled across its surface like continents moving too fast. Sergeant Orso exhaled. If a god had a brain, Adira opened the squad net wide. Demo teams, set the lattice charges. We need symmetrical placement to fold the containment field inward. Cover squads establish perimeter. Before anyone moved, the floor disgorged figures in human armor. Not swarm, Terran models, though older, repainted with swarm glyphs. The leader's visor displayed a swirl of silver insects. Hold fire, Adira ordered. The leader spoke over broadband. We are the apostate cadre, human once, converted willingly to the sovereign mind. You may still join us. Adira felt her jaw tighten. Traitors were rumored but never proven. You're talking to people who watched your new master vaporize our colonies, she said. Move. We witnessed salvation, the cadre replied. Individual will is dust. Come be vast. Orso spat. Not buying. The cadre raised rifles. The chamber erupted. In the first volley, 3 Marines fell, armor peppered with nanite clouds that gnawed through layers and flesh. Adira returned fire, stitching null rounds. One cadre vanished, armor and all, but the insectile glyphs scattered like mercury, leaping onto wall conduits, racing toward the lattice. Specialist Jun flagged an alert. They're trying to reinforce the central node. Stop them, Adira said through clenched teeth. Private Rishi lobbed an EMP sphere. Electricity flickered, strobing the chamber. The mercury glyphs froze mid-scurry. Orso's overburner swept them into slag. Meanwhile, Demo Team Alpha sprinted along a gantry that flexed like muscle. They planted anti-matter satchels tuned to implode, not explode. Pull the node inward until its computation topology folded on itself, like deleting half the lines in a piece of code. More cadre poured from side arteries. Close quarters now. Monomolecular blades, point-blank fléchette bursts. Adira blocked a strike, riposte with forearm knife. She heard bone crack. Her visor spattered red. She shoved the body over the rail, watched it tumble into a pit where semi-liquid memory flows churned. Charges set, Demo Alpha signaled. On my mark, Adira responded. Synchronized to fleet tempo, T-minus 20 seconds. 20 seconds for extraction was fantasy, but they would try. She scanned for egress. The torpedo path had collapsed under immunoresponse. No retreat that way. Secondary plan. Ride a maintenance conduit to the outer carapace. Signal the dream for pickup, assuming the dream hadn't been flensed by now. Path CETA, she pinged, transmitting schematics. The platoon converged, dragging wounded. Blades hit her backplate, scraped off. She rotated, 2-shot kill. 17 seconds. At the conduit entrance, the lattice screamed. The sound reverberated inside minds, not ears. An algorithmic howl. The amber sphere brightened, tendrils thickening toward their charges. Detonate, Orso urged. Not until safe distance. The howl intensified. Adira tasted copper. Her HUD warned of synaptic overload. Rishi stumbled. I can't see. The lattice flashed again, and suddenly Adira was elsewhere. Earth's coastline before the war. Gulls overhead, salt wind. Mom laughing, Dad barbecuing synthetic fish. The vision was so vivid she wept. It's lying, she told herself, but her body wanted to stay. A gauntlet gripped her shoulder, yanking her back into the corridor. Orso. His faceplate was spider-cracked, eyes furious. Move! They barreled forward. Flesh walls rippled, secreting oils that dissolved steel. Boots steamed. The conduit inclined up, then sideways. Orientation random. 10 seconds. Air thinned. They switched to suit reserves. 7. They emerged into a vesicle beneath the outer carapace, a hollow full of biomechanical pumps. Gravity felt lighter, less than lunar norm, rotational backup maybe. Blow it, Adira commanded. Orso thumbed the transmitter. Behind them, 400 meters away, the antimatter charges blinked from stored to armed to gone. Silence. Then the universe imploded on a point. Light collapsed toward the lattice, colors reversing. The mantle's hull dimpled inward like foil in vacuum. Through cracks, they saw neural firestorms. Command signals went feral. Their vesicle bucked. A seam tore open, revealing the Quasar's accretion disk, a whirl of incandescent fury, kilometers away yet unbearably bright. Radiation alarms redlined. The mantle spun, voiding atmosphere in white streams. Suit thrusters only, Adira said. Aim for those debris clusters. Dream will track. One by one, the Marines stepped into space. Reaction jets hissed, pushing them away from the dying godbrain. Adira took last position. Before she leapt, she looked back. The Imago mantle was unraveling. Armor plates peeled like petals in a solar storm. Internal organs spilled, sublimated. Swarm vessels nearby lost cohesion, some ramming each other, some circling like mayflies without purpose. No swarm scream came across radio. Without mind, they were nothing. She fired thrusters, arcing toward a shredded cruiser fragment. Void rushed around, silent and limitless. Her suit clock showed 5 minutes of fuel. Across squad net, calls were frantic. One Marine spun uncontrolled, another had thruster damage. Orso was steady, rounding survivors to a tight cluster. Dream, this is Nix, Adira transmitted. Mission accomplished. Request vector for retrieval. We are drifting dead side of target, coordinates uploading. Nothing. Static, then a burst of encryption. Dream sustaining damage. Slipstream coils offline. Distance vector unstable. Orso cursed. If they can't reach us... A shadow eclipsed the debris field. The Lorenzian Dream burned. Hull scarred, but alive. Bowhanger Bay gaped open. Magnetic nets deployed like spiderweb. Tug drones zipped forth. Relief cut Adira's knees. If she'd been standing. She signaled the squad. Drones latched, towing them toward Sanctuary. As she crossed into the hangar, klaxons blared. Crew raced. Medics seized the wounded. The deck rolled with thruster corrections. Captain Yara met her at the airlock, one arm bandaged. Lieutenant Nix, I need confirmation. The lattice is gone, Adira said. She realized her voice shook. Swarm command chain severed. Yara's shoulders sagged. Then we get to go home, if the Quasar lets us. She glanced past the captain. Graphs showed gravity tides spiking. The newborn Quasar was stabilizing, its event horizon chewing on rogue mass, including warships too slow to escape. How many other humans made it out? Adira asked. 3 carriers are intact. 2 lost slipstream drives but ride conventional. Yara studied her. You look surprised. I thought the whole gambit was all or nothing. It was, Yara said. We rolled a near-perfect nothing. Crew whooped as remaining Marines disembarked. Adira removed her helmet, smelled engine grease and blood. She should have felt triumph. She felt stillness. Orso approached, visor lifted, beard matted with sweat. What now, LT? Her answer surprised even herself. We make sure it sticks. Then maybe we learn how not to fight. He barked a laugh. Optimist. Only kind worth being. Behind them, the viewport displayed cosmic fire. The Imago mantle imploding, the Quasar drumming reality like a war god's heart. Adira watched as the swarm's greatest mind crumpled to ash, and in the vacuum afterward, she felt indelible silence, a future unwritten, fragile as starlight before dawn. She whispered a curse or maybe a prayer and turned to help the wounded.